Welcome to Solitude Farm. My name is Krishna. I've been living in Auroville for the last 26 years now. I'm from England, and I feel I had a very privileged education because I was student in Jiddu Krishnamurti school in England. If you're familiar with J. Krishnamurti, he had these schools where the aim was that the children growing up, they should become free of conditioning, and his words, they should flower in goodness. So, you know, Krishnamurti's whole thing was really, you know, that we have to understand, to be free in this life, we have to understand our own minds. It's not, you're not going to arrive at that through any guru or dogma or organized religion. So that school was really different. You know, I was studying jazz guitar, I did a lot of theater, I was doing research into genetics, and at the same time I was helping run the vegetable garden. So the guy who ran the vegetable garden, now he actually helps run the Matrimande gardens. He used to live here in the 70s and the early 80s, and yeah, he was a huge inspiration for me, because there was this guy who was really always working with the plants and growing the food for the school. We had this beautiful 1-acre vegetable garden. And I saw this guy and I thought, well, you know, a life close to nature, growing your own food, that's a valid life. You know, going to university, getting master's degree, that's not my narrative. That's something that's sort of imposed upon me. I think, you know, living a very humble sort of life with, you know, in community and that sort of creativity, that has some more sense to me. So he told me about Auroville, and I said, okay, well, that's where I'm going. At the same time, I also discovered the main sort of inspiration for my life is a Japanese farmer called Masanobu Fukuoka. He wrote the very well-known book called The One Straw Revolution. And I had the chance actually to spend 5 days with Fukuoka about 16 years ago. And he was a short little guy. He had a white beard and an indigo kimono and a wooden chapels. You know, he had like every part Zen master. And he didn't talk so much. He was already 92 years old. But one thing he did say to us, he said, only a fool will understand nature. The word for fool in Japanese is baka. So he said, only baka will understand nature. You know, the strategic mind, the acquiring, you know, mentality of man, you know, this planning and acquisitive sort of way that mankind is, you know, that's led to the point that we have no water left in Chennai. In Delhi, the cricket, there's this 2020 cricket, it's sponsored by Pepsi. There's tens of millions of dollars. It was cancelled last year because the players couldn't breathe. They were fainting on the cricket pitch. So you think, hang on, water and, you know, and air is like such fundamental needs for our existence. And this sort of, you know, the cleverness of mankind, you know, we're the only species on the planet capable to start nuclear war. We find something out, we put nature to use, thinking it's going to be for the benefit of mankind, but we've created a chaos. You know, we've depleted resources, there's an unease in the society, there's an ecological disaster, nutritionally, you know, there's diabetes, there's all sorts of diseases, you know, education system that's meaningless. You can see somehow we, you know, man has taken a wrong turn somewhere, and you ask yourself, you know, if you're a little bit inquiring, what is the wrong turn that we've taken? And it seems to be that we've lost touch with something that's really fundamental in our existence, and that's a relationship with Mother Nature, the earth under our feet, you know. And a reflection of that loss is not knowing where our food comes from. You see, so we eat 3 times a day, and if you ask, you know, some of you may have had bread for breakfast, some of you may have had idli, you know, some rice, but where were those ingredients grown? Where was the rice grown? Like geographically, can we say, yes, it was grown in this location, I have a relationship? We don't know where it's grown. You know, we don't know where the wheat is grown that made our bread. We don't know who grew it, and we don't know how it's grown. So were chemicals used to grow the rice that we had for breakfast? We don't know. If they were used, which chemical was used? And how much chemical was used? So in this area, DDT is still sprayed on the cashews. Now, cashew is a common ingredient in lots of dishes. People eat it, you don't even think about it. But we're having actually something that's being grown with DDT. It's a chemical that was banned in the 70s. It accumulates in the tissues of organisms, going up through the food chain, more and more concentrated. It's a deadly chemical, and yet it's part of our lives to a certain extent. It's just we're oblivious to that fact. So what other chemicals are being used? We don't know. We don't know the effect of that. Then you look at how is the food that we eat processed. Food is also, there's radiation, there's spraying, there's bleaching, there's all sorts of things happen to the very industrialized food we eat. Then how is the food packed? How is it stored? Is it in a big warehouse and a little guy spraying it with something? We don't know what's happening. And then how is it transported? We are divorced from the most essential aspect of our life. You see, you might believe in Sri Aurobindo, and you might believe in Krishnamurti. You can have like a nice argument about who is the better teacher. You might be vegan, I might eat meat. It's a classic example. There's a lot of conflict with who believes in my particular philosophy. You might be Montessori and you might be Rudolf Steiner. In education, there's conflicts on all these levels, but when it comes to hunger, it's a level playing ground. We're down to the basic common denominator is we need to eat to live, to survive. So